Phil Kaplan is not here because he's either sick with excitement for the rivals round clash between Leeds and Huddersfield, those traditional big rivals of Rugby League, or he's dipped below our standards off the field. One of those is true. I'm not sure which. So John Davidson of By the Balls of the Eye of Patreon fame is here. John, how are you?
I'm very well, Rich. I'm very well. How are you? Have you recovered from Sunday's disappointing afternoon?
Well, apparently they were they lacked desire and were lazy in places, according to the TV. So, which surprised me as a viewer, but never mind. What can you do? What can I mean? And that was Wigan with Zach Hardacre, who, as we find out this afternoon, has indeed. And this is the problem with the statement from. Well, it's not a statement from Wigan; it's a quote from Matty Peat. There, quote saying he's dipped below our standards off the field, which doesn't really say much. And the fact that he's back in contention next week says whatever he's done can't be that serious. But because of his history, a vague statement leads everyone to go online and make up things, which is a bit of a shame for him. But interesting to see Wigan have come out and said this.
Yeah, I have no insight on what he may have done. Obviously, he's got a very extensive rap sheet, so he's fallen below Wigan's standards off the field, but presumably he's done that previously. But they've given him another chance, and it looks like, you would presume it's nothing too serious because he's only missing one game. But, they've obviously got a lot of good players in the backline there, Wigan, particularly the two fullbacks, so they want to find a place to play them as well. So, going to be an interesting game against St Helens.
Yeah, Field was quite good against Wakefield on the weekend, wasn't he? And Bevan French isn't too bad either, as you say.
No, they're both not bad players. I mean, I think, I thought Wakefield played quite well, for the majority of the game. They probably just, Wigan's defence was immense. They probably just lacked a little bit of polish in breaking them down in that second half. But yeah, when you've got Bevan French and Jai Field who can pop up on either side of the field and just with that speed to beat a defender, to break a tackle, it's very exciting and it's very hard to defend against. Wigan, a real attacking threat. Having both those players in your starting 13 is I'm sure a luxury most teams would like to have.
Yeah, not bad. We'll look ahead to the excitement of rivals round, get it right, later. The other news today is that changes on the board of the RFL, but and someone who is going to join who we don't know yet because the realignment is still taking place, albeit very slowly. But I guess nothing really changes. The key people who have been there forever are still there on the board.
Yeah, that seems to be the one constant in rugby league. It's generally a shuffling, isn't it? There's not usually a lot of new people coming in leadership positions or fresh faces. It's generally a shuffling around, and that's what it seems like we've got at the moment. Alignment is apparently very new, and everything's going to be amazing with alignment because we're all back together, although we all were back together a couple of years ago. So how it's actually going to be different remains to be seen. But yeah, that is the Kool-Aid that we're being asked to drink.
Don't get us the reputation of being cynical. We don't want people to think we're a cynical, negative program again. We're supposed to be positive now, and generally are. The NRL is ongoing. Nice to see it making headlines on the BBC this week because your fella got a 4-game ban for using a homophobic slur on the pitch. Is 4 games about the par for things in the NRL for that kind of indiscretion?
Yeah, I saw a tweet about that. I mean, I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, how do you gauge how bad it is? Is it worse than a racial slur? Is it worse than elbowing someone in the face off the ball? Is it worse than the old finger in the date? Is it worse than the family jewels squeeze? I don't know the answer, but I think 4 games is probably a fair ban. I think it does send a message, that's not appropriate, and hopefully we won't see it again. But rugby league generally continues to enthrall and excite, doesn't it, on and off the field.
And more headlines been made off the field in Australia. The NRL season so far, how's it gone down there? Has it been a massively successful start to 2022?
Yeah, I think it's five rounds in, should I say? And I think at least the first 4 rounds, everyone's been very happy with the product. It's been exciting. There's been a lot of close games. There's been some unpredictable results, and the standard's been very good. I think there's been some murmurs in the last fortnight or two about potential rule changes and the return of the wrestling, but I think the vast majority of people are very happy with the product, and I think it's been very, what I've seen, I've not seen probably as much as I would have liked. It's been very entertaining. There's been some fantastic games, and it's been very good.
All concerned ahead of the World Cup that in Australia they're playing the ball correctly and we're not over here. And by the time we get round to the World Cup in the autumn, we're going to be pinged for it in every game. And the Australians, because they don't need any advantage anyway, they're just going to storm to victory because of that.
Yeah, well, I think when you look at it, it's not just the Australians, obviously, who are playing in the RL. It's the New Zealand team. It's the vast majority of the Tongan team. It's the vast majority of the Samoan team. I'd say it's the vast majority of the PNG team, and Lebanon, Greece. I think I think we saw at the last World Cup when you saw big scores being dished out by Tonga and Fiji, even Papua New Guinea were much improved. And I think that gap in competition is there. I don't think it can really be argued against. So. The play the ball is one. It is strange how in Super League it's just sort of this sort of rolled concept. I don't understand it personally, and it's nice to be seeing something enforced. We don't want more penalties and more rules, but it seems like it's a rule that we have that just isn't enforced.
Well, we'll get a referee on and ask them about what's going to be enforced and not for the rest of the season, because obviously everything's changed after the start with the complete ban on anyone having any contact with the head whatsoever, which seems to have eased off in the last few years. And the AFL disciplinary email has got shorter and shorter because there's less cases for them to deal with. But the main thing that's struck me this season is nothing's happening in the women's game. There's been no foul play in the women's game so far this season, according to disciplinary. I've seen 3 yellow cards, but no further disciplinary action. But Hakim Maludi, 8 games for his actions against Batley, which is already or still being investigated for what apparently has gone on between the two teams as well. And we just come off a debate about how Luke Gale shouldn't have got 5 games because he's famous, and here's Hakim Maludi getting 8 games in the championship for, and I haven't seen both, so I can't say they're similar, but a similar graded incident to Luke Gale.
Yeah, well, it still hasn't. I mean, I haven't seen any highlights, but what were his actions, Maludi? What contrary behaviour? What
is he again picking up an opponent who's injured? So again, without it's obviously different degrees of the thing, but he gets 8 games, Luke Gale gets 5, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't get less or more or whatever, but after we just had a debate about people not getting long bans, here's another long ban to come in, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think the pullback from the crackdown is interesting too, because it seems to have been, coaches voicing their displeasure, clubs, players, a lot of fans, and they've obviously put on the brakes now. There's still the lawsuit going on. There's still the worry about finding a new insurance partner. There's still the sort of danger of concussions and brain trauma. So yeah. I don't think we've seen the last of that personally, but it is interesting. I've watched a few games since it's been pulled back, and there's probably been a few yellow cards that would have been dished out a week earlier that haven't been. So it's hard to know what is and isn't foul play to some degree at the moment.
And no one can complain then that they're not being given as yellow cards as they would have been, because people didn't want them to be given as yellow cards in the first place, which is where we are.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I mean, rugby union is proposing 20-minute red cards now, so it just seems things have gone a little bit crazy.
Going back to Australia, the NRLW Grand Final of 2021 has taken place. Not won by Brisbane for the first time. Sydney Roosters picking up the trophy in front of nearly 8,000 fans. And it seems that the women's game in terms of TV viewing figures in Australia is doing well as well. So things pointing in the right direction for the whole game in Australia.
Yeah, I think the women's game has been. I've certainly noticed the coverage, the media coverage of it has increased a lot. There's a lot. Fox NRL, the broadcast partner, the Sky equivalent, is really, is broadcasting the games. It's really pushing it on its magazine shows. The likes of Triple M are pushing it as well. So, excuse me, it's really going in the right direction. I think the crowds have been growing, the TV figures have been good, and obviously a few weeks back they announced new teams to come in and an increase in salaries for players. So it really is moving in the right direction, which is fantastic to see. And I think obviously the Women's World Cup at the end of the year is going to be another step in the right direction.
502 at York on Sunday. Obviously, York think I'm against them because I tipped Leeds and Saints to win everything. But they beat Alton 92-2, as they should have done. Leeds 14-0 over Warrington. Yeah. Saints 24-0 over Huddersfield. Featherstone beat Wigan 12-10 in a very close game on the Our League app, which hopefully people enjoyed. The semi-finals of the Women's Cup, York versus Leeds, which should be a belter, and St Helens versus Featherstone, which will also be interesting for other reasons as well. Big fan, though, of Alton taking a kick when 18-0 down. More teams should do that. So
you don't want to be nil, do you?
No, well done, the Raidettes. And those semi-finals are next week on the BBC Red Button or on the iPlayer or whatever. And the final, of course, on semi-finals day to Ellen Road. And I've got to give the RFL credit because, we all think, they're going to do something ridiculous. But they've actually put the Saints Women game, is on first as we expected. Saints Wigan on straight after. So the Saints fans can go early and watch both games and then bugger off Hull KR versus Huddersfield. So amazingly brilliant scheduling there by the Rugby Football League. So double thumbs up to them.
No, I think it'll be a really good day at Ellen Road, and hopefully capacity crowd or near capacity crowd. I have seen at least one person complaining about why the women's final isn't at Tottenham ahead of the men's final. I don't know the exact reason for that. I imagine it's down to the wear of the ground and cost of hiring usually. But is the 1895 Cup final?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
So that's
obviously
It's right. We all know why the 1895 Cup exists. Everyone seems to want to deny the reason the 1895 Cup exists is to sell tickets to two more bunch of fans to get into Wembley or this year's Spurs. I don't know why people get upset about that, but it is what it is. And Sheffield, congratulations to them beating Whitehaven 40-6 at Featherstone on Saturday afternoon in front of 150 people. So, more people went to watch York women on Sunday. And that's no knock on Sheffield, because obviously they're playing in Featherstone, but it's the 1895 Cup. It gives an opportunity for two more teams to play in a big venue, and it's going to be an interesting semi-final lineup with the way things have fallen. Obviously, we spoke about Wigan and Wakefield earlier, but St Helens beating Catalans 36-20 on Saturday afternoon. Great performance from St Helens, as I guess you expect week in, week out now from Christian Wolfsmen, unless they're playing Toulouse.
Yeah, I mean that just seems to be the biggest anomaly you can find. I mean, what happened in Toulouse? Obviously, that game wasn't broadcast live, but yeah, I mean, full credit to Toulouse, because St Helens haven't looked like dropping any points. They've been slaying all comers, and they look well. They're obviously not impossible to beat, but they look very close to it. So yeah, I only saw glimpses of Saturday's game as I was at Steve Mascord's book launch in Huddersfield, Two Tribes, which is out now in the World Wide Web and apparently in bookshops and all that sort of thing. But yeah, a fantastic performance. They just seem to, both with the ball and defence, just to be a cut above. It's great to watch, Johnny Lomax and Lewis Dodd do their thing, and Jack Wellsby chime into the line, and also defensively, just their line speed and how they batter teams when they have the ball. So it's going to be a huge ask for Wigan back-to-back in the next 2 weeks.
Matthew,
2.5 weeks?
Yeah, 7th of May. I'll put it on my calendar. Yeah, so a couple of weeks. It's all confusing at this time of year with the excitement of the rivals round, and then there's another set of fixtures on Monday, which I thought we got rid of, and then we've had to bring them back because we've got the World Cup to fit in, haven't we? So
yeah,
Forgot all about. Oh, wait, she'll play Wigan again. I wonder. Was it Matty Leeds? He's off to the NRL. Is he off to Gold Coast Titans then?
I've certainly been linked with it. Obviously, his old coach Justin Holbrook is there, and I think there'll be a number of St Helens players who have a lot of admirers, and that's what happens when you're playing in a champion team and you're performing at such a high level. So, it's going to be hard for St Helens to keep all their players. That's the point of a salary cap sport. Your value goes up and you want more money. So they've obviously shedded a few players at the start of this season in Lachlan Coote and Kevin Nagama. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to them in the off season. And obviously also their coach Christian Wolf, who's out of contract as well. So he'll have no shortage of suitors down under.
Is this your favourite time of year then? Because it is all linking people with one place to another, and you can fill your Patreon up with stories to annoy people because they have to pay to see who's going to be going here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, I actually speak to CEOs and coaches and directors and owners. I don't just pull it out of the ether. It is an interesting time of year. Obviously there's a May deadline, so players aren't supposed to be offered to other clubs, but as we all know, that isn't really adhered to. There's a lot of speculation that certain players have already signed deals, 3-year deals, going to certain clubs. So, there's a lot of movement that's happening and will be happening. Obviously, a lot of players coming off contract, and clubs want to get their houses in order and get the pick of the market. So, it is a really interesting time, both in Super League and in the NRL.
Yeah, I only hear about gossip from the women's game in terms of transfers. I don't know anything about anything else because I don't know anyone and I don't do any work. So you're in Huddersfield for Steve Mascord's book launch number 333. I think he's doing the one in Leeds later in the year. He's coming on the programme. I think he wants to do one in Wakefield as well, but I don't think it's very difficult to find somewhere in Wakefield where people read. So what can you do? But We'll get him into Wakefield eventually. Huddersfield 24, Hull 16. Huddersfield just keep it seemingly improving week on week, which is not good news for Leeds, obviously, this week, but good news for them going forward.
Yeah, they've probably been the surprise bracket, haven't they, this season? Last year was pretty tough for them. Watson's first year there. He dipped back into the recruitment market, and I think, in Lola Hea and Farge, obviously two quality playmakers. Lola Hea's in fine form at fullback. We all know how good Theo Farge is this time at St Helens. And I think one of the keys has been Chris Hill. And I think if you look, it's not all down to him leaving Warrington, but he's left a big hole at Warrington, I think, in terms of leadership and culture. And, he's a competitor. He's a workhorse, and he's definitely added a lot to that pack at Huddersfield. So I haven't seen the table recently. You might know better than me, Rich, but are Huddersfield sitting second or third?
They are third, just below Wigan and Saints by 2 points.
Yeah, that's a fantastic position for Huddersfield. I think off the top of my head, their crowds have been up this year as well, which is a positive. Good times to be a Huddersfield fan. Yeah, they've got Leeds on Thursday. That should be a certain 2 points for them. No, in all seriousness, Leeds have had a week off, so they should be fresh. But, when it comes to Leeds, they still don't have a head coach. They still don't really have any decent halves. So, I still think Huddersfield will be favourites going into that game. They'll be very confident. That's what happens when you're winning every week. You don't worry if you're feeling a bit sore and stiff, and things generally come off for you.
I know we bemoaned the crowds in the Challenge Cup, but Huddersfield and Hull had 3,637. Wakefield, Wigan had 3,756. And for all pay crowds, that's not too bad, not far behind where Wakefield were the last couple of weeks against Toulouse and Salford in Super League, when obviously there's a number of season ticket holders involved. And Huddersfield don't get much more than that regularly. So, yes, they don't look great in terms of bare numbers, but they're not bad compared to where they've been. And as you say, Super League crowds are up this year, which is surprising because everyone says, no one's going to go watch a game anymore. So that does seem to be fairly positive numbers from the weekend.
The game's gone soft, Rich. No, I think the Challenge Cup could probably do with its own sort of marketing push and, maybe a bit of a scheduling move, which, they've tried to do this year. It's obviously earlier. We've got a May final, don't we? Whether that's because of the World Cup or not, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, I think the positive is, as you mentioned, it Super League crowds are up. There's been a number of sellouts already. There's going to be a few sellouts this weekend, and that's a big positive. I don't think there's been a push in or an increase in marketing spend or ad spend. So, whether that's just people wanting to be out more or what, but I think the TV ratings that I've seen have been really positive as well, both on Sky and Channel 4 and Premier as well. So lots of positives. So many positives really going on.
Well, the negative is we can't find out the TV figures anymore because they've changed the Barb website and you have to pay to get the details, which is a complete nightmare.
Is that some sort of Tory money grabbing conspiracy?
Are they going to sell it off? I don't know who owns Barb. We'll get Nadine Dorries on the programme. We'll get her on. She'll know. But she won't know. But it's too much positivity about viewing figures, attendances. Hull KR beat Casford 34-10. Doesn't sound like it was a great performance on the Tigers, but Hull KR continue to improve again. They started slowish, but have had their injury issues, haven't they? So going to try some Elliot Minchella, who, as we said before, I always use him as the example of, you see players who get away with things time and time again. Minchella had one incident at Leeds and was binned out of things and has slowly worked his way back up, and credit to him for that. And Hull KR now with a very good chance of making Wembley, working Spurs, I should say, in taking on Huddersfield. It's to draw Huddersfield and Hull KR would have wanted, because no one wants to play Saints or Wigan in the semi-final.
No, that's exactly it. I think they'll be both relishing the chance to get to Wembley. I mean, Hull KR, was it 2015 or 2014?
15, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that couldn't have gone any worse for them. So I think they'd, if they can get to Tottenham, they'd be very confident about their chances. A very different team. Disappointing about Michael Lewis being injured, but yeah, they're really hitting their straps at the moment. And you are right about Elliot Minchella. I mean, there's quite a fair ex-Leeds contingent there, isn't there, with Ryan Hall and Danny Maguire, Tony Smith, lots of other people who I can't remember. Matt Parcell.
Yes.
You mentioned Zach Hardaker at the top, and Minchella's career's gone different, but he's a very good player. Obviously had that unfortunate ACL tear, but great to see him back and ripping in. I think there was some sort of story or some talk about a contract nearing his contract. You'd think they'd be pretty keen to snap him up, because he's been great for Hull KR. And
Tony Smith potentially signing an extension as well, which he seems to be lukewarm on Leeds anyway. Not that he would have said, "Oh yeah, I definitely want the Leeds job," but he's not been putting himself out there, at least.
No, there's been a lot of speculation about Tony and Hull KR and Leeds, and whether they offered him an 18-month contract and he wanted 3 years, and it doesn't seem to be going to Leeds. That's as far as I can tell, what he told me. But yeah, the fact that he hasn't signed a new contract at Hull KR, you would think is a little odd, but he does seem to be very happy there. Although there's different rumours about things going on at the club. But look, he's done a fantastic job. Getting into the semi-finals, the way they're playing, they're very great. They're entertaining to watch, and there's also a real young group of English players coming through as well. So yeah, you would like to think that they'd lock him down for at least another year, if not longer.
Barrow bounced back in the championship, beating Bradford by a Jared Samet drop goal, returning to his former club and all that kind of jazz. I am enjoying it at the minute. Everyone going out on loan from here, there, and everywhere, despite the fact we got this reserve system in place. That seems to be working well. Some of those were involved at Cornwall's inaugural game, some would say, or first match at home.
What does inaugural mean, Rich?
I'm from Wakefield. I barely got a GCSE in English. Cornwall 40, Midland 60. Cornwall, who signed a dual registration agreement with Bradford, and Midlands, who got a couple of Bulls players on loan, including Fogging Johnson, who scored for them. But 60 points to 14 up at half time, 1,473 there. This is an interesting test for Eric Perez's skills, because at Toronto, they were always going to storm through League One in their first season with the signings they made. This is a completely different situation in a completely different sports market and all those things. But as a first attendance goes, that's signs of positivity there.
It is, yeah. That's a great attendance, particularly for, as you said, the first of the home game. And it's League One, which is a league that doesn't get a lot of coverage, a lot of publicity. But I think, is that 60 points conceded back to back? I mean, I think the West Wales game, considering how West Wales are going, that's probably going to be their best chance, or maybe their only chance for a win. Because obviously with Cornwall, I think a number of their players had never played rugby league before the season started, which can't be a great can't be a great thing. But look, fair play to them for pulling that crowd, and hopefully, results, disregarding the results, which I think it's going to be a long haul for them. If they can pull those sort of crowds and build an audience, that's very important.
There are teams in the Women's Super League who've got players who've never played rugby league this year. So Cornwall following that method, but good signs for them. And they played Doncaster this week away from home. Doncaster having lost to Swinton 64-22. So big win for Swinton. Big win for North Wales, 54-6 over London Scholars. Again, this division is very much almost two separate leagues again. Oldham 100, West Wales 4. And Rochdale 44, Hunslet 20, in a much more tighter match, as you would expect, between two teams who will be challenging at the top end of the table come the end of the season. West Wales, obviously, it's almost a shame for North Wales that West Wales exists, in the sense that they get lumped in with Wales is rubbish, we may as well give up, even though the fact that North Wales are unbeaten so far this season, playing well, according to the scorelines. But because West Wales exist and are back to where they were a couple of years ago, everything's lumped into one big bin Mark Wales, unfortunately, for the Crusaders.
Yeah, I mean, North Wales seem to be powering ahead, doing quite well. West Wales, I don't really know what goes on there, but they seem to go through coaches, players. There seems to be a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, it's going to be hard to attract players, but they tried last year with the kind of the marquee element with Gavin Henson and Rangi Chase, and that didn't work. So yeah, you've got a feel for them copying those kind of hidings.
Did score a try though. Martin Ridgey had 14 goals out of 18. Well done to him. And he scored a try. Well done to Oldham for their first win of the season, albeit perhaps somewhat hollow. We're West Wales this week. They're not playing, so that's good for them. It's rivals round.
Just jumping ahead before you go to rivals round, Rich, where are Bradford sitting on the table at the moment after that defeat?
The Bulls are just inside the playoff zone by 2 points on points difference above Newcastle Thunder.
So they've not obviously set the world alight. Do you think John Keir might be under a bit of pressure there?
Well, you would think so, wouldn't you? As a super coach. But does he have the players? Are the players available to him? Is there money at Bradford? I don't know.
I think there's more money at Bradford than probably most clubs outside of Lee and Featherstone in that division. Maybe one or two other. But yeah, it's not been. I think if you're a Bradford fan, the talk of a promotion push over the last 2 seasons has not materialised.
Maybe it's smarter not to spend that money when Feathers and Lee are throwing it around and save it for a future season. I don't know. I'm just trying to be put a positive spin on that. But yeah, 4 wins, 3 defeats. I think that you've got to give them credit for coming back from a big deficit against Barrow. What was it? 8-4 down at half time. I can't work it out, but they had to score 2 tries in the last 10 minutes to try and get onto terms. So there's some fight back there. But yeah, you'd say if they're below, you wouldn't expect them to be below Barrow, would you? And no disrespect to
No,
Barrow or Widnes in terms of the way they've been in the last couple of years. So
no, that's right.
it's a tricky one. They've got their big derby this week against Halifax, which is the big derby if you ignore everything that went on. Well, that was the traditional big derby for Bradford, I should say. Or was it Huddersfield and Halifax? I don't know. It's rivalry round, which starts off well and then ends up with like Warrington Salford. You think, no, they're not really rivals, but we've got to sell it somehow.
They're kind of close, though. They're kind of close.
They're trying. The Super League are trying, so we can't knock them. And I've got to say, in terms of the Challenge Cup, I play my games on my phone. I keep getting these videos to buy Challenge Cup tickets. So, they're trying their best, even if Mrs. Horton's on there trying to sell me Challenge Cup tickets.
Well, I haven't seen the videos trying to get you to buy tickets, but I thought the Sunday game, Wakefield and Wigan, I thought it was great entertainment. I think the BBC did a great job, and it was just a very entertaining game. There was a lot of twists and turns. The young winger at Wakefield did some fantastic things. Unfortunately, dropped the ball in the second half when the try was begging. But it was a very entertaining game, and I thought that was perfect kind of Sunday afternoon fare.
Yeah, I think Lewis Murphy spoke well on the TV afterwards as well. Which these young players need to get that experience of speaking to the worldwide audience watching, and he did well. Well, he scored one try. It was very good. They're making it look too easy now. The more we see these tries week in, week out, people aren't going to realise how difficult they are to score. But
I think also the try stopped with the tackle in the corner. I can't remember the Wigan player did, but that was brilliant, knocking the ball loose. So I think it was his debut against Leeds early in the season, and it was a pretty hard debut for him. So good to see him bounce back and take his opportunity with Tom Johnston out.
And I forgot to mention, speaking of Tommy Lulawai, he's almost as good as ever at the minute. It's bizarre.
As long as he keeps his arse in his pants, that would be, we can hope.
As an Australian, are you perturbed that Courtney Winfield-Hill's chosen England?
Well, no, it's funny you mention that because I remember interviewing her last year. I think it was around April, May, and I put that question to her, and that was before the World Cup had been postponed. And she said, unfortunately, I won't have passed the residency. I was like, oh, okay. And, I was planning to write up that story. I never wrote it up. Obviously, it's been a blessing in disguise, the World Cup for England, and been pushed back. So, very good player. One of the best players you would say in Super League. And, I think the halves, such a key area. So she's also got experience of the NRLW, having a spell briefly with the Roosters. So Kangaland, get behind it.
Kangaland, fully behind it. I'll go buy the shirt. I think they're on sale for $10 at the minute, which is exciting.
I think Gary Schofield's burning them in Belle Isle somewhere in his backyard.
He's got some knockoff ones. It's a busy week. I had forgotten we've got two rounds this week, and until I saw Gareth Carvelli was on a few weeks ago saying players aren't in favour of it, and we had got rid of it, and now it's come back again, which is a shame. But what can you do? Doesn't mean we get to see Cass and Leeds on the telly on Monday, so that's fun. But before that, on Thursday, the first ever French derby in Super League. 25, 26, 27 years on from whatever it was, and Paris Saint-Germain. It's Catalans versus Toulouse. Maurice Lindsay's dream has finally come true. It should be a fascinating game, and hopefully a great atmosphere coming across on the TV as well, as we know we get for a Catalans home game. Yeah,
I like to think they can build that rivalry over the next few years, but I don't think Toulouse will be. It's not a fait accompli, but I don't think they'll be getting in. They'll be in Super League next year, but great to see. And obviously Sam Tompkins being out, maybe that gives Toulouse a bit more of a chance. They did the unthinkable against St Helens, so who knows? They could pull off. It'd be a huge upset. I'm sure the emotions will be running high in a true Gallic manner.
So if Toulouse win then and Leeds lose to Huddersfield, then Leeds will be bottom. So
I will be at Headingley, so I'll have a first-hand look at that. Yeah, it's not been a great atmosphere at Headingley in terms of local fans this season. So be interesting to see how many people turn up on Thursday night.
Hopefully, Phil's feeling better as well.
Yes,
because he'll be there. He'll be there.
He doesn't miss a Leeds game.
No, I'm far too confident that Wakefield are going to beat Wakefield. Wakefield are going to beat Castle on Thursday, which obviously hasn't happened in a billion years. But Castle got their injury. Castle got their injury problems as well at the minute, and Jordan Turner's out for the season, which obviously isn't great news for him nor his hopes of playing for Jamaica in the World Cup. But Cass just seems to be picking up injuries here and there, and that's going to be a fascinating game on Thursday, because if Wakefield do win and make it 4 Super League wins in a row, whatever, the pressure again goes back on Lee Radford.
Yeah, it's been a funny season for Cass. They started so badly, and they obviously destroyed Leeds in the Challenge Cup, and put a big score on Toulouse, and then went down, from what I saw at least, the highlights, quite meekly defensively to Hull KR, and a lot of injuries. So yeah, I think that's going to be a tight game, and there is a fair bit of pressure on Lee Radford. I was at the opener against Salford, and I think there was people calling for him to be sacked after that loss. Game 1, read into that what you will. But I thought Wakefield, I've seen them quite a bit in the last month. Obviously, they'd won 4 in a row going into the Wigan game, and they looked, quite full of confidence. They do really play some nice stuff. Mason Leno's in good form, as is Max Jowett. So maybe a chance to finally break that Calder hoodoo. Yeah,
just so I can, stick 2 fingers up at me nephew who supports Cass. I mean, he's only 8, but still, I'd still do it. He's through me. I threw my PS3 controller because I beat him the other day. So, he deserves it. Warrington versus Salford. 2 teams away from the beaten recently. And again, we talk about pressure. And ridiculous, it's on Darryl Powell as well, of course. And they need to find a win from somewhere, the Wolves. Obviously knocked out of the Cup. And in no great form whatsoever at the minute.
Yeah, I don't know what's gone wrong at Warrington. But yeah, I think, the playing group really need to lift. The senior players, you need to take charge, because they've not really played well all season. Even round 1 against Leeds, they were very lucky to scrape that win. They didn't deserve that win. And Darryl Powell's admitted it. Since they haven't played well, and things have just gone from bad to worse week after week. So you look at that squad. I think the common gripe from a lot of Warrington fans is the pack. There's not enough, perhaps enough size, enough. Different shapes of players. They've probably not replaced. Well, I don't think they've replaced Chris Hill and someone like Ben Murdoch-Masila. The punch that he provides, but they've still got some unbelievably good players across their 17. Darryl Clark seems a bit of a shadow of himself. The likes of George Williams and Gareth Widdop, Stefan Ratchford. So, yeah, they really. It's probably a good time to play Salford, who have lost a few players for the season in Sargentson and Greenwood, and Shane Wright's going to be out for a while. So, I think if they don't get that win, you wouldn't like to be Darryl Powell or Kyle Fitzpatrick, who's copped quite a bit from the Warrington fans.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because obviously they've tried to sign at least one player from Super League at the minute. If they lose again and they want to sign the likes of a Kalepi Tanganoa, they're going to have to get the checkbook out and put a few more numbers out there to tempt any CEOs across the competition, because I guess big forwards are at a premium at the minute.
Yeah, no, I don't think Wakefield are going to sell Tanganoa. He's under contract. I don't think they're struggling to pay the bills even with the energy rises. So I don't think he's going anywhere. But yeah, I think they will be looking for a player who can come in and bring an impact. They have got a quota spot, but I think cap-wise they don't have a lot of space. But you just sort of have to wonder that, what is the culture there at Warrington? Have the players got it too good? Because they've got a fantastic stadium, a fantastic training facility. It's one of the wealthiest clubs, if not the wealthiest club in the league. They've obviously had some success. Well, they've had a lot of success in the last 10 or so years, but they've just not managed to win a grand final, even though I think they've been to 4. and they've dropped off at the business time of the year for the last couple of seasons. So, they really need to sort out their issues. I think it's different issues than what they are at Leeds. I think if you're Darryl Power, you're kind of scratching your head a little bit and hoping you get a reaction from your players.
The Buffalo Bills of Super League. We were accused of being anti-Warrington on the programme last week for saying that they were under pressure. So apologies, we've done it again.
You're very anti-Warrington.
Yeah, anti-Warrington, anti-York. It was brilliant because I just... I in one of my wild predictions said that Saints and Leeds would be the top two teams in the Women's Super League, and York would be third, and then Daylight and everyone else. And I think I had 13 members of the York squad like my tweet saying, "I hope they don't read this." So, go on, York. I don't dislike York. Don't like Huddersfield.
Castleford's 18. Right.
Oh, they're going to you now as well. No bad boys in the NRL who can come in for the spot at Warrington.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I think there's been a lot of reports about Anthony Milford, who's escaped some charges that he had in court in Brisbane. But I think it's unlikely that the NRL will allow anyone to sign him up because of some unsavoury activity, or alleged unsavoury activities in the video involving his partner and I think another woman. But he's a halfback. They don't need a halfback, Warrington. And I think the other player that's been linked has been talked about as Blake Ferguson, who's had an unsavoury incident in Japan. But he's a winger, so
they don't need a winger. No.
I think it is really hard to work out how what's wrong at Warrington or how to fix it, but it just seems like the players are too comfortable. Maybe that there's a time for that squad to be, maybe I'm being a bit drastic, but maybe it's time for that squad to be, ripped up and start anew, a rebuild. I think they probably think they don't need that, and it's not like they've got a really old team. I think they've got probably a good mix of ages, but there's just certainly something rotten in the state of the Halliwell Jones Stadium.
Poor old Warrington. Let's get Wizzy Waskell or Wolfie to do something wacky.
Well, that's the funny thing. They do a great job in marketing themselves, in promoting the sport, in trying to engage the media. Just haven't had any success on the field this year or last.
There's no word from Australia on who's going to be replacing Richard Agar.
Gary's back.
He's back. He's back now. He's back. No,
he had a good holiday. Went out to Manly to see his family. No, I've not heard anything. I think the same names keep getting mentioned. Obviously, Shane Flanagan, Ryan Carr, Cameron Serraldo, John Morris. I mean, basically anyone who's either an assistant coach in the NRL or a former NRL head coach. I think Shane Flanagan is very unlikely. As I've said before, he's got a job on Fox NRL, gets paid good money, I imagine, to commentate. And there's a number of coaches in the NRL under pressure. Obviously, Michael Maguire, the West Tigers, former Wigan coach. I'm sure there's knives being sharpened for him. Nathan Brown, former St Helens coach of the Warriors. They're not doing, outstandingly well. And Trent Barrett at the Bulldogs, I think they've only won one game. Former Wigan player. There's a number of coaches, I think, probably waiting there. Paul McGregor as well as another one. Paul Green. But I think with Leeds, what happened with David Furner, I think he's obviously fairly well liked in the NRL fraternity, and I think if you're looking at that situation of where Leeds are, is that as enticing a job as it once was? I don't know. But I think they really do need to find that head coach very soon, because I think the current situation as it is really not working with the interim. And if you look at their performances since Richard Agar was moved on, or he stepped down, however you want to put it, they've probably gotten worse than regardless and better.
Which is bizarre, but it's not supposed to work out that way. It's not supposed to work out that way when a coach leaves. That the performances get worse, but there you go. 2 games on Friday in Super League. The Hull derby, Hull KR versus Hull FC, and I guess you'd have to make Hull KR favourites for this one on home soil, and arguably, I know Hull FC are above them in the league, but only by a win. Probably playing the better rugby at the minute.
Yeah, I think they are. They haven't won. They haven't won a derby for a while, though, have they?
Was that year they lost a 20-point lead or something that they always sing about?
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but I thought the stats said that they haven't won one in a while. But yeah, you think they would be slight favourites? I mean, I think it's fantastic that it's a sellout. Shame, obviously, Micah Lewis isn't available, but the likes of Jake Connor up against Lachlan Coote. It should be a fantastic occasion.
They've won the last 3, Hull FC. There you go. Last win for Hull KR was 2019. I've got the In Touch email up so I can check.
All these games seem to meld into one, but I remember being at the KCOM. I think it was pre-COVID, and did Hull FC put 50 on them? I think Tim Sheen's
56-12, yes.
Yeah, I think might have been one of Tim Sheen's last games. I don't think we'll get a scoreline like that on Friday, though.
And I guess what will we get between St Helens and Wigan? Because on paper, you think St Helens should win this one. And comfortably, what is comfortable? He's 8 points comfortable. He's 20 points comfortable. But Wigan are playing well as well. So this should be a good couple of games for hopefully a big TV audience as well as 2 sellout crowds.
Yeah, I mean, it's that old traditional rivalry, isn't it? And Wigan seem to be, in a much better place this season than they were last season. The camp, I mean, Zach Hardaker aside, seems a lot happier. Obviously, Jai Field is in sensational form. Every time he gets the ball, he looks like he's going to create something. Bevan French is back, and I think starting to find some form as well. Cade Custer's made an impact. I think the prop there, Patrick Mago, he really he looks a great signing. Just his ability to break tackles and offload. And John Bateman's getting back to his best as well. They seem a very happy bunch, and I think if anyone's going to knock St Helens off the perch, or at least put some pressure on them, is going to be Wigan. So I'm really fascinated to see how that game goes. Obviously, they've got a repeat in a couple of weeks as well. So it'll be good to have a good test of St Helens. I think it'll be a tight game. I think it'll be probably more defensive focused. Hard to pick a winner.
And the way the semi-finals and the women's final have been drawn, that should be a really good day of rugby at Ellen Road, because you've got the Huddersfield Hull KR game between 2 sides who want to get to Spurs, Saints Wigan, which you don't need to sell, and then the women's game should be between 2 very good sides if everything went to form in the Saints Featherstone game. And if it's York, and then you've got the revenge from last year in the Challenge Cup. If it's Leeds, you've got revenge from the grand final or whatever. So that is a really good day of rugby league, all on free television. This is far too positive. Far too positive.
All we need is 25 degrees and sunshine. Is that too much to ask?
I've got sunshine in Wakefield, but
Yeah, I think it's about 15 degrees. I mean, it could be a bit warmer, but no, that should be a fantastic day at Ellen Road. Obviously a famous football stadium. I think the last rugby league game was 2018 England v New Zealand,
which was dreadful, wasn't it? Well, for England at least.
It was dreadful. It was dreadful for England. They'd already won the series by then. But great that all 3 games will be on the BBC. Hopefully, good numbers. I think they're pretty evenly matched, all those games. As you said, we're not sure who will get in the women's final, but you'd be putting your money on St Helens and Leeds.
Yes, just to upset the old people. John, what would you like to promote and get people to pay you money for?
I would never dream of such a thing. As I told someone earlier today, no one puts a gun to your head to pay for anything. No, nothing to promote. No, but should have a nice whole Derby story in the Eye on Friday, which you can go out and buy the newspaper. That's always nice. But it will probably be online for free as well. So if you're tight, then you can read it online for free. But nothing to promote. If you want to come, if you enjoy long reads and features and stories from the likes of myself and Steve Mascord and Ross Heppenstall, then there is a Patreon site out there for you. But if you don't, then no worries at all.
Ross's story with Francis Maloney, definitely worth a read.
Yes, in the Times, a very sad tale about a former player battling dementia. I think, as Ross puts in his story, there's usually two schools of thought, isn't there, Rich? One, you play that sport knowing that you could, end up with dementia in your 40s, or no one actually, knows that risk. So,
The kids you see running around at Super League and Championship and League One grounds before games playing mini rugby, they don't know. And you don't know. No. You're doing it because you enjoy it. And unfortunately, as with everything, there's a risk, isn't it? Which is what you learn about later in life. But hopefully, Francis is as okay as can be. And hopefully, things change for the better. That's all we can hope, isn't it? And they make these decisions for reasons that are to protect people. But some people don't want to be protected. I don't know. John, we'll see you back in the studio again soon, no doubt. I mean, hopefully. Hopefully Phil's, I'm sure it is to do with Leeds and Huddersfield. He's just sick with worry about.
I think, he could be the new coach of Leeds Rhinos. It could be unveiling him as we speak. He could do a lot worse. No, they could do a lot worse by appointing Scully. Obviously, his coaching record.
Better than John Keir at Huddersfield. That's what I'll tell you. And Mal Reilly.
They must have been bad at Huddersfield.
Huddersfield were bad at that point.
Yeah.
John, a pleasure as ever. Enjoy Headingley tomorrow. And we shall no doubt see you again soon. And all you viewers, I don't know when we'll be back next week, with it being Easter week. Maybe on Wednesday again next week. I don't know. I'll have to check with Phil, see what he's up to. But thanks for watching and listening, and leave all your positive comments about how much you hate us, because we love it.